to them when it comes to the New World Order conspiracy. And yeah, I just want to say right now I am talking about the New World Order side of things, as opposed to like I mentioned in the first show. Illuminati I consider as the dark, spiritual entities behind the New World Order, and the dark spiritual force behind the New World Order. Illuminati is the more it'd be like the puppeteer, and then the New World Order is the puppet. The New World Order is bringing about this just completely hellish system, and they're just being used by the forces of the Illuminati. That's that when I say those terms, that's what I mean. The New World Order is physically what they're setting up. So and yeah, and all these people, even though they are elites, they're high up there. When it comes to the pyramid, I know they're not at the very top. The very top would ultimately be. I mean, there's so many theories on that. Jeff Grupp, who I work with on Antimatter Radio, thinks the Illuminati are the Nephilim, and talked about in the Bible, and he makes a pretty good case of that in his movie. So, and I do agree. I mean, I don't know specifically if they're the Nephilim, but definitely some sort of just dark spiritual entities. Either physical or non-physical. And the reason I say that, and that may sound weird to some of you, but there is evidence of that, and they're just people are just so manipulated. They all have the same ideology, and they all have the same spirituality, so much to the point where it is just like a religion for them. So why not be dark spiritual forces controlling them ultimately? And you could disagree with me on that if you want. That's not what this particular episode of Black Helicopter Radio will be all about. Like I said, this is more about the real concrete, hardcore, push for this New World Order and the proof of it, which I'm just laying out right now. This is coming from the very people who control, like I said, the few control the many. This is coming from the people who control this world, and they're setting us up for this hellish system, putting us through this hellish path, to the New World Order. All right, here's David Rockefeller, who was the founder of the Trilateral Commission, one of the just the most disgusting New World Order person you could ever imagine. Okay. Oh man, this one's great. This one's been used a lot, but it is worth repeating. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the work is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in past centuries. Man, that guy's a scumbag. Let's just read that last sentence over again. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in past centuries. It is just, surely preferable. Yeah, actually, it probably would be to you and your little clique of New World Order scum, David Rockefeller. I mean, this is what I'm saying. These people, literally, it seems they either have no soul or their soul is so tainted. And when I say soul, I just mean to the core of who they are. How could you push for this? I mean, we know about greed, but I mean, this is beyond greed, and this is beyond even being power hungry. This is just so disgusting, just so satanic. I mean, it's hard for me to find words to describe it. I'll put it that way. So here he is saying, "Thank you, media, for being complicit in the grand conspiracy and not doing your job of telling the everyday citizen what's really going on. You just either we'll use you to pass fear and just keep them subdued, or we'll just keep them, give them plenty of bread and circus and keep them mindlessly entertained." So no, but I mean, I was being sarcastic, but really he's saying, he's specifically wishing some of the biggest, news organizations, Washington Post, New York Times, Time Magazine, about keeping quiet about this conspiracy, and it would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. Well, guess what, David Rockefeller? That's why there's so many of us now trying to expose you, and hopefully we can all make a difference, and yeah, and you know, and yeah, exactly, put you under the light so people know about your disgusting plans. And here he is saying it in plain English, people. This is not me making this up. This is what they want. So get out of the denial. Okay. Here's the next one. In the next century, nations as we know it will be obsolete. All states will recognize a single global authority. National sovereignty wasn't such a great idea after all. Huh. Alright, Strobe Talbot, former U.S. Deputy Secretary of State. Yeah, so national sovereignty wasn't such a great idea after all. I like how he says that. It's like, man, it just wasn't such a great idea. We really should have this, you know, a single global authority to rule over everyone. It's just, how can these people push for this? I can't wrap my mind around that. I mean, don't they? I mean, they have children. They're gonna have grandchildren. Do they think all their grandchildren and children will be totally exempt? I don't know. Maybe they will. You know, maybe they'll live in their little protected hideaways while they just, you know, basically kill off the rest of the world, because we all know they want to lower populations greatly. So, all right, let's go into the next quote. Yeah, this one's pretty powerful. Man, these are some just crazy powerful quotes. Here is one of Arthur Schlesinger, a historian. Let's see. We are not going to achieve a new world order without paying for it in blood as well as words and money. So the new world order will come by paying for it in blood. Mass death once they lower the population. Through just mass slaughter and slow kill and hard kill weapons. Yeah, people, this is what we're up against. You know, this is the global elite leading us to this absolutely hell system, and you know, saying it openly, and yet people are still in denial. You know, I just try to look at people from a different perspective. You know, how would they rationalize all these quotes? They'd probably say, "Oh, well, you know, they don't mean like a world government as in one global government. They just mean nations working together, you know, through things like the UN, you know, just to stop war." And it's like, no, they really mean a global. Just like the quote from one of the last quotes I did, Strobe Talbot. It says, "No, a single global authority. National sovereignty wasn't such a great idea after all." They don't mean global cooperation. You know, I've heard all these people say that, like, "Oh, New World Order just means, you know, people, you know, these different countries working together, you know, better." No, it means a lot more than that. They want a global government. Sure, they might start out, you know, with small things. It's all incremental, chip away at sovereignty, but really, no, they want global government. It's right here. I'm sorry, it's just stop the denial. It's, you know, it's all listed here. I just gave you some of the best quotes I could find, and that's just barely touching the surface. So yeah, those are the quotes. How else do we live in a conspiracy reality? Well, like I said, the few control the many. So these global elites, decisions they make have impacts on, you know, all of us, on the rest of the world, whether it be through finance, foreign policy, you know, the war on drugs, you know, all different policy, not just government, but also obviously through the big businesses, corporations, and the economic system. All has huge impacts on everyone directly. Even though it might be hard to see, it does. It does affect you, your life right now. I mean, for example, you know, you're getting paid a wage, a certain wage, but your money, and you might be saving money, but your money is losing value over time because of inflation. See how that works? So that's just one example of many. Or let's see even more direct and even more hellish of an example is, say you're in a war-torn country of Afghanistan. Well, the New World Order is currently over there, you know, killing your people and bombing you and stuff. That'll, if, you know, I'm not in Afghanistan obviously, and I don't know how many of my listeners are, but if any, so, you know, most of us can't relate to that, but just imagine, you know, being there and having this foreign power occupy your country. That's the New World Order. That's the military-industrial complex. So, yeah, I mean, so, oh, and the point I was getting at is the few control the many. These global elites control, the destiny of this world ultimately. Sadly, that they do right now. As of right now, it's not we the people at all. Just get that idea out of your head. Um, so you judge a tree by its fruits. So look at where the world is now, and then know that those people have a direct influence on that, and just judge them by that. Judge all the wars, all the poverty, all the depression, all just the decadence, all the nihilism, and it's only accelerating all of those things I just mentioned. I mean, judge a tree by its fruits. That's how you will know them. That is just the best way to look at it. Really, is just look at this world, and then try to examine some of the evidence I presented for you through these quotes. So many books you can read on it. And then make up your own mind if maybe there is something to this New World Order quote conspiracy theory. It's not a theory. This is reality, conspiracy reality. And by definition, this is a conspiracy. This is groups of people plotting against criminal or evil acts against the general public, or just against another group of people. That's what conspiracy is. This is a conspiracy. So yeah, I just listed off a bunch of quotes. Hopefully, like I said, if you can play, maybe clips of this, or you don't have to show my show. My point is to wake people up. I'm just saying, that's a great way to get people to open their eyes. You say, hey, there's this new world order of, this merger of big corporations, big government, in the military and everything, working towards this one world government. So, a lot of people look at you like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. Oh yeah, well here, how about you listen to some of the things these people say, and then read them off some of these quotes. Oh, one thing I've noticed that's kind of funny is a lot of these quotes are older, and it seems like with the internet and with information getting spread so easily, is you don't see as many quotes that are quite as bold as these. No, there are still a lot of global government, saying we need a global economic regulation by the elites, but some of these are just so in your face, saying, by conquest or consent you'll accept the New World Order. What else was a good one? Oh, even we'll use a threat, either fake or real, to get you to submit to the New World Order. You don't see quite as many of these globalist type New World Order people saying this as bluntly as back then, because a lot of these were before the internet, so information wasn't spread nearly as easily. So these quotes couldn't get to as many people. So now I think that they've really got to watch, what they say more. But that does not change the intention of what they want, and they do still say they want these things. They just say much softer terms. They say global governance, which is actually that's not too soft of a term, but they use global cooperation, global this. When you're listening to a New World Order type, just count how many times they say global. It's amazing. So earlier I mentioned Kennedy getting shot for exposing the grand conspiracy in that speech, and actually, I wasn't going to play the clip originally because it's just been played so much, but man, I got to put it in here. This is just too classic of a clip, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that in here. It's just a 5-minute clip of him talking about just how massive this conspiracy is, secret societies. It's the whole deal. If you haven't heard it, you will be blown away by this. 1 second. To them when it comes to the New World Order conspiracy. And I just want to say right now, I am talking about the New World Order side of things, as opposed to, like I mentioned in the first show, Illuminati I consider as the dark, spiritual entities behind the New World Order, and the dark spiritual force behind the New World Order is Illuminati or the Nephilim, but definitely some sort of just dark spiritual entities, either physical or non-physical. And the reason I say that may sound weird to some of you, but there is evidence of that, and they're just people are just so manipulated. They all have the same ideology, and they all have the same spirituality, so much to the point where it is just there. I mean, they are elites; they're high up there. When it comes to the pyramid, no, they're not at the very top. The very top would ultimately be. I mean, there's so many theories on that. Jeff Grupp, who I work with on Antimatter Radio, thinks the Illuminati are the Nephilim, and talked about in the Bible. And he makes a pretty good case of that in his movie. So, and I do agree. I mean, I don't know specifically if it's like a religion for them. So why not be dark spiritual forces controlling them ultimately? And you could disagree with me on that if you want. That's not what this particular episode of Black Helicopter Radio will be all about. Like I said, this is more about the real concrete, hardcore, push for this new world order and the proof of it, which I'm just laying out right now. This is coming from the very is the more it'd be like the puppeteer, and then the New World Order is the puppet. The New World Order is bringing about this just completely hellish system, and they're just being used by the forces of the Illuminati. That's that when I say those terms, that's what I mean. The New World Order is physically what they're setting up. So and yeah, and all these people, even though